Responsive web design and the ability to accommodate any screen size on any device is basically a requirement at this point. So today we'll take a look to see how we can accomplish this using media queries. So what exactly is responsive web design? Well, responsive web design is the ability for a website to respond to and change itself accordingly to different screen sizes. So here I've got my Twitter open, and Twitter is an example of a responsive website. So if I start to shrink this down a bit, you're going to notice some changes. So right here, right once we get past a certain point, this is going to shrink down to just be the symbols rather than the words itself. If I blow back up a bit, you're going to notice that it comes back up. The words and everything are going to respond according to the screen size. If we shrink this down a little bit more, you're going to notice we're going to lose this sidebar here. And if we keep shrinking it, you're going to notice that some different things are happening. So this has now shrunk down to a much smaller size, and it starts to look like something that you could use on a phone. And if we keep shrinking, it's going to get to the point where you can use it on a phone. Now everything is responding using this button here rather than everything being on the side like this. And this is what's considered a responsive website. So how exactly do they do it? Well, the majority of it is done using media queries, and media queries are just bits of code telling the browser that if it's under this screen size, do this, or if it's above this screen size, do that. So the way that we write these media queries is pretty straightforward. We're going to use the @ symbol, and then we're going to say media. And then we're going to put some parentheses, and inside of these parentheses is going to be your condition, or your breakpoint statement. So let's say I want to hide this square whenever I get below 500 pixels at width. So I'm going to say the max width for this media query is 500 pixels, meaning this can work no higher than a screen width of 500 pixels. So we put some curly braces, and then we're going to make our selection. So I want to hide that div, so I'm going to select the div, and I'm just going to say display is equal to none, just like that. And then whenever I shrink this down, as soon as I get below 500 pixels, you're going to see the square disappear. Just like that. See, my screen width is set to 488 now. So if I set it to 500, you're going to notice that it's still not showing up, and that's because we set it to equal up to 500. So if we set it to 501, you're going to see that the square is going to appear again. And this is the basics of how media queries work. But that's not all we can do. We can do just about anything that we want. So I've set a class called box on this, so we can select that box class, and we can set the background color to orange once it hits that 500 pixel breakpoint. So at 501, it's green. Once I get down to 500, it's going to change to orange. Once it meets that breakpoint requirement, then it's going to enact that media query, and it's going to change that background color of that box to orange. So whenever it's above 500, it's going to be green, but below 500, it's going to be orange. And this works both ways as well. So if we wanted to change the color to orange once it gets above 500 pixels, we can change this to min width, saying the minimum width it has to be to enact this media query is 500 pixels. So if it's above 500 pixels, then it will change the background color of that to orange. So whenever I save this, you'll see it turns back to green. And anything below 500 pixels is going to be green. But as soon as I go above 500 pixels, you're going to notice that it changes to orange. And everything above 500 pixels is going to be orange. And we can actually manage multiple media queries as well. So if we wanted to do something whenever we got to, let's say, 750 pixels, we could just create another media query. So we just do media, and then we're going to set the min width. So the minimum size that is going to be allowed to work at is 750 pixels. And then we can make our selections. So we'll select that box, and we can do just about anything we want. So we could change the background color to blue, and we could set the height and the width to something that's maybe double what it is. So 400 pixels high by 400 pixels wide. So whenever we get above 750 pixels, it's going to do that. So once we go below 500 pixels, it's going to be orange, and it's going to be 200 by 200 pixels. And then whenever we get below 500 pixels, it's going to change it back to green. So whenever we go above that 750 pixel mark, it's going to change that color to blue, and it's going to change the height and the width to a 400 pixel rather than 200 pixel. And we can actually create complex media queries as well. So if we wanted this to only work between 750 and 900 pixels, all we'd have to do is add a little bit to this media query definition. So we could say and then we could put some more parentheses, and we could say max width of 900 pixels, and now this will work only between 750 and 900 pixels. So if we save that and we stretch this to be bigger than 900 pixels, you're going to see it's actually going to revert back to this orange color, because this has the definition of it has to be above 500 pixels, and that's it. So once we get above 900 pixels, then this media query is no longer working, so it reverts back to this one. And that is media queries. They're pretty straightforward, but they're absolutely required for responsive web design. So if you did like the video, make sure you slap a like on it. Check out the full playlist, link is right next to me. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.